So in today's episode of Spotlight, we've got Darius, Regional Managing Director at Macildowie. Some really interesting conversation today, talking about inspiration from grandparents, talking about how to build a team and a successful culture within your organisation, which is applicable really to anybody with a 1, 2, 3 person team, all the way up to leading a team like Darius of 60 people.
My name is Darius Matusiak. I'm currently the Regional Managing Director of our South Midlands and Home Counties area. Joined Macildowie in March 2010 as a graduate, and my background in recruitment is predominantly within the HR space. In more recent years, that's at a senior and exec level. I've also done quite a bit of work in the value add space with customers, developing things like employee value proposition programs, market insight surveys, and so on and so forth.
Did you think that you would end up being a regional MD?
The goal was always to get to manager, so that was the first goal when I joined the business. And then I guess as you reach your goal or your destination, you move the goalposts again, and I continue to keep moving forwards.
Do you, in your blog, there's a bit where you talk about a formula for success. The answer to that question that you just did then was very formulaic, which I'm very formulaic as well. It's not.
I can't remember what the formula is.
Well, no, you know, in the blog, part of what you actually said is that you didn't define a formula, but you sort of intimated towards like it is kind of formulaic, like there is like find a formula. I think the words that you used. So I'm just wondering if you had a specific formula from going from grad to managing director in 10 years. I don't know if there was a specific, like for me, it's literally like my formula is eat, sleep, gym, repeat. And if I do that 5 times a week, my life is fine.
Yeah, okay, got you.
See what I mean? I just think there's like intricacies because like.
So I think in recent years, I've learned that the term is what they call a growth mindset that is required for you to develop and to be able to ultimately push the boundaries with things. So what does that actually mean in simple terms? I think that it's about trying new opportunities, knowing that you are not likely to succeed in the first place, but that if you learn from those initiatives and roll out the learns on the next initiatives, then you're likely to be able to be more successful moving forwards. I think what underpins success very often is a combination of discipline, and it's having the discipline to do the right things more often than your competition. Goal setting, so being quite target focused, and having goals that either you hit or you don't hit, but as long as they improve the performance continually, then I think that is important. And I think there's an element of patience that's required as well, because as we've just discussed, success doesn't happen overnight. It has to be earned, and it does take time. And very often it needs to come through the experience as opposed to the attitude or the potential. So yeah, I think it would probably be those 2 things. That follows on from in your blog, the quote from Mother Teresa. Yeah. I've never read that before. Yeah. I was actually quite inspired when I read that. It's going on Instagram stories today. That's my sort of thing for the day. And actually, I do read a lot of stuff like that, and that's actually taken me sort of like quite by surprise, because it basically says to do all the things that you think will be wrong, because the motivation is not that they're wrong, it's like to be brought down, isn't it? And it's where it's like, we'll just do it anyway. Yeah. Like worrying about being brought down or worrying about not succeeding is almost as bad as not doing it for worrying about it. That's kind of what I took from that Mother Teresa thing, which I found really motivational. I think the other part of it as well is that it's about taking a longer term approach with things too. So if I kind of bring that into the recruitment world, I think our industry is tarnished with a reputation that people just want to put bums on seats and take a fee and then disappear. And I think the opportunity is that if you do take a long-term view and you do focus on developing relationships, ultimately your commercial gains are going to be significantly bigger, because people will always buy from people that they like and trust. and they will go back to those people time and time again. And with that in mind, you're always going to be able to give yourself increased chances of placing more people and therefore earning more bonus and or revenue for yourself and the organisation as a result. So actually, it comes down to being driven by doing the right things over and above being the snazzy salesman or the shark that is able to close a few deals, because in that world you'll forever spend your time developing new relationships.
Yeah, it was really interesting because when I was reading it, as I obviously read all the way down and then realised it was like Mother Teresa. It's like it was almost like it was like a business book, and it was like the bit that resonated with the most was, I think it was like, if you build it, someone could take it, but build it anyway. I don't know if that's exactly the right paraphrase.
Pretty much was that, wasn't
it? And I
was
like, that's the same. That logic is so true for business. It's kind of like if you spend all the time worrying about the competition, you're not building because they could take it anyway. So just build it anyway. That's just like, just cemented with me like my own sort of like beliefs around stuff. And I read it, I thought, I'm actually going to take that on board.
I've always been a believer that you, in percentage terms, most of your focus should be towards motivation rather than away from fear.
Yeah.
I don't think there's too much harm in having a bit of a balance of the two, but I would probably say it's got to be 80-90 towards motivation.
Yeah, true. I agree with that. And is that Mother Teresa thing, is that something you had with you for a while?
Yeah, I would say probably 5 years or so.
Oh, cool.
I can't even remember where I discovered it, to be honest.
It's good.
But it just resonated.
It's really good. There's just so many bits of your blog that, surprisingly, you'll be surprised, like really resonated with me. So like, my granddad was me, like literally, my family and stuff. He looks like my brother, but like his spirit is me.
Right.
So I am my granddad.
Yeah.
And I was like reading your bit, and it like touched me quite dearly because my granddad went to fight in the war and he was ill after the war. He met my gran during the war. I know it's not the same as your family's story, but there's a touch of similarity to it. My granddad was really ill after the war, and then they were like the stories that I was told of him about is like at that time after the war, like rebuilding his life and what he went on to be, and like the job that he had, and like he got to go all over the world and stuff, and he was It's just Even my granddad inspired me, like that even though we were like council estate, you could literally go and do whatever it is that you wanted to do. He went on 14 world cruises. I mean, the guy was just a joker. And your bits, like, I think it would be amazing if you could just tell us a little bit about that story because it is pretty amazing.
I think I'm proud of my heritage.
I would be extremely proud of it if it was you. If I was you.
So literally explain the background.
Yeah. It's literally an amazing story. I read it and I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like, let's talk about it.
I mean, both sets of grandparents were given, I think it was 10 to 15 minutes to clear out all of their belongings from their respective houses, both in different parts of Poland. I think one set was it was the Russians and the other set was the Germans. And then they went on a month-long train journey to Siberia. Unfortunately, my not all of the family made it, so they passed away from the cold, I think, on some of the journey. But ultimately, they ended up in Siberia for a period of time, and then South Africa, and then came to the UK. So my dad's parents settled in Derby, my mum's parents settled in Leicester. And obviously they came here with next to nothing. And I remember reading my granddad's memoirs, so my mum's dad's memoirs, and he was talking about how hard it was to actually be given the opportunity to even get a foot in the door anywhere. So I think one of the values, if you like, that's been instilled in me from a pretty early age is that with hard work, you'll achieve anything. And with a mindset of not giving up on stuff, you improve the chances of achieving anything. And eventually he went on to be a director in a textiles business, which was great. And then on the other side, we were quite entrepreneurial. So my dad's mum and dad, one of them, so my grandma ran care homes and my granddad ran a little Polish business where he used to go around selling stuff. And again, I think it was one of those where, you come with nothing and the opportunity is massive. With the right mindset, work ethic, and determination, you can build something that you can be really proud of and can give you a relatively good life. So yeah, it's all good.
That's mental. It's just that there's not really a story of overcoming hardship. You've got a lot of experience building a team, so that's something I'm doing at the moment. So, what tips have you got for building a successful team of high growth, as you described it?
Yeah, okay. I think it starts with a self-awareness of the leader of that team. So the first thing that I would focus in on is, who am I? What do I stand for? What do I value? What is important? What do I want to achieve? How do I want to be perceived? And so on and so forth. I think when you've established that set of criteria, if you like, then you can have an idea around how you're going to recruit people that believe what you believe. So I personally prefer to go for softer skills than harder skills. The combination of the two is obviously always ideal, but I would any day of the week take somebody with the right attitude and mindset and values above somebody with the hard skills that doesn't fit in with what we're trying to achieve and where we're trying to go. I think when you get the team together, there then needs to be a lot of focus on the development of that team. So communication, effective ways of working, fun things that ultimately help the barriers get broken down and help people build trust. And I think trust is the key component to unlocking the potential with any team. Because if you can build trust, then it becomes an environment in which it's safer to have conflict and disagreements. If you can build trust, then people are going to work harder for each other to achieve that common goal that they all believe in. And then I think in addition to that, it's really important to set goals and objectives and celebrate those goals and objectives when they're hit, but also to put things in perspective when milestones aren't achieved, and really to focus in on what has been learned from that experience and how can it be rolled out again. I think when you are starting out and setting an objective, one of the really important things in order to increase the chances of you hitting that objective or goal is to probably run what the Navy SEALs call a pre-mortem. So to look at, okay, so this is our goal. We know it's going to get tough at some point, whether that be in the middle or towards the beginning or the end. When we reach that point, how are we going to respond? What are the things that we're going to do? What are the levers that we're going to pull? And I think inevitably, if you have that plan and you hit those icebergs, then it's probably a sign of your success that you are moving in the right direction. And really importantly, you've developed that element of resilience to be able to navigate your way through it because you've decided how you're going to go about it, and ultimately improve the odds of you getting to where you need to be. So I think they would probably be some of the key things that I would focus on.
Thank you.
Final thing, got one more, if that's cool.
That's good. Those are good things.
Yeah.
We're in the right. I think we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
That's given me confidence that what we're doing is going in the right direction. We're interviewing on character alone this time.
Like it.
Going all in on character and all out on everything else.
Love it. I think one of the other things as a line manager is that you really need to be mindful of the difference between editing people and building people up. And you've got to be sat in the camp of building people up. So catching people in as opposed to catching people out, for me, is the way to go.
Yeah.
And to steal a ratio from Sir Alex Ferguson, he talked a lot about the 5-to-1 approach. So you catch people doing great things 5 times, and then you give them feedback on where they need to change, develop, and improve once, because you are looking ultimately to build people's confidence.
So it's about one-time interaction to build.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, I think any line manager is managing a human that happens to be a recruiter, or happens to be a social media expert, or happens to be a footballer. And if you manage the person first, then you create the psychological safety to be able to develop them, i.e. give them feedback, have difficult conversations, be objective around where they are and where they need to be. If you don't get to that point of helping them feel psychologically safe, then you're forever going to keep them in the fight, flight, or freeze mode of the brain, the primal brain, which means they're not going to receive the feedback.
You do one thing I would say though, you do have to tread carefully, because some people can't be moved out of fight or flight mode, even though they've got. We've discovered that you can have people with bags of talent, they're just not ready.
Yeah.
They're not ready to come out of flight or fight, and they're just not ready. They actually, and then you sort of talk to them and you think to yourself, oh, you're going to be like this for 3 or 4 years. And they go like, how do you know? He's like, I've been there myself. Like, took me to 28 before I decided to start pissing around. Like, but yeah, we found that the mistakes that I've made here in terms of hiring and firing predominantly, or, you know, it not being right for them or too much time in probation, is because they've shown, when they talk about this in football terms as well, they show glimpses of brilliance, and it's usually referred to them like being, if you're a Forest fan, they must have been brilliant in training, because we see that here all the time, and it's kind of like, I think for me that when I say that we've changed that interview technique now, we're going all in on character, because Google answers every question. Yeah. Google trains you how to do everything, but turning up at 8:30 when you start at 9 and going home at 6 when you finish at 5:30 is just common understanding that that's what a person does to get on. And like, that's what we're interviewing for. It's like, that's what we're interviewing for. It's kind of like, here's the key, let yourself in, come and work. That's what you're here to do, and let's get on. What is success to you? And I think this is a sliding thing that changes as you get older or more experienced.
I think my take on success as a concept is that it's quite intrinsic, and what I mean by that is I think it's quite closely related to what you set out to do. So take a really extreme example, somebody like a Robin Williams, he won every award going, but it obviously wasn't in line with what he wanted to do, which is why the story ended so tragically. So I think success has to be quite closely aligned to your values and your morals and what you want to achieve, and perhaps in some ways less towards external rewards, recognitions, and so on and so forth. I think success is an evolutionary concept as well. So for example, a little bit like you, at the start of my career, it was all about how much money could I get in my back pocket and how quickly could I do it and how quickly could I chase the next job title. And now I think it's about how effective can I be at helping other people achieve what it is that they are looking to get out of a career at Macildowie, or if they are a customer of Macildowie, what it is that they are looking to achieve within their organisation, whether that be to find a great person because they've got a recruitment need, whether that be to develop their employer brand, to improve their culture or something else. So I do think it evolves. I think if I was to try and fast forward to the end of my life and look back, very often they say that the things that people talk about as they end their life or at the end of their life are really geared around how you made people feel, as opposed to the money that you earned or the rewards that you have won. So that is something that I think is becoming more and more prominent in my life as I get a little bit more mature and experienced in the things that I'm doing. So I definitely think it's around the people impact that you make on individuals, over and above having a Ferrari set on the drive.
Yeah,
that'd be nice though.
It would be nice. It would be nice. How important is company culture to you?
I think it's everything, because if you're looking to create an organisation that people enjoy being part of, that works towards a bigger vision and that retains its people, the company culture needs to be front and centre of everything that you do. So you need a clear vision and direction that the organisation is going in, and then a set of values that are ultimately conceived by the people that work within those teams. Because we spoke about it a little bit earlier in the conversation, there needs to be that shared belief and shared common goal that people are working towards for there to be a strong culture. And the evidence of that strong culture will be that people put in discretionary effort to achieve for each other, that they put the needs of the team first, and that they are supportive and inclusive of people that are either less experienced or on the periphery or come from a slightly different background or whatever it might be. So for me, it's number one on the list of things to get right.
Awesome. And then, so your culture, does that would imagine it envelopes into what you look for in an employee, doesn't it?
Completely, yeah. So once you've established and defined your culture as an organisation, ultimately you're able to build a recruitment framework that allows you to recruit against that culture.
Yeah.
So I think we touched on it before, but how do you recruit people that believe what you believe, that stand for what you stand for, and ultimately have an alignment of the values? Because if you can do that, then you ultimately stand better chances of being able to develop those people and retain those people, which is so key when it comes to the commercial value chain of being able to grow your organisation and ultimately charge more money over time.
And any tips for motivating a team, motivating staff?
So I would be looking at it from more of an individual perspective and understanding how those people are motivated, because each one of them will have different motivations, different priorities, different desires for recognition and reward and so on and so forth. And I think if you can then understand that, then you're able to have more personalised and individualised conversations. You're able to develop people in relation to what is important to them. You're able to work from a strengths perspective to help them be the best version of themselves. And as a byproduct, I believe that the motivation levels will go up. I'll caveat that slightly with, once you've got those individual motivations, you then need to look for the common ground, and then you're able to build team motivations from it as well.
So you like plug in all the individual motivators,
I would say
try
so.
and find something that you could do like on a team level that would
Yeah.
have an element of something for everybody in there.
Yeah, combination of top down and bottom up, i.e. what are the individual motivators?
Yeah.
How do they, what's the commonality amongst them that then allows us to have a team motivator? Just for argument's sake, really simple example, we all want to earn 120 grand a year in a Ferrari. Well, we know then that the common ground here is money.
Money, yeah.
Or we all want to make our customers feel super special. Well, we know then that these are people that are people orientated.
Customer servicing, yeah.
Exactly.
Customer servicing, yeah. Which is actually a really important quality for everybody to have.
Yeah, completely.
What advice would you give to your 16-year-old self?
Be braver, take more risks, and enjoy the journey a little bit more. I think at that age, you are fixed on material goods or certain social statuses. But actually, over time, I think I've started to learn that it is as much about the learning process as it is about the results that come from it. So yeah, I think that would be the advice I would give myself.
So that was a really interesting spotlight. I think that's the first spotlight that we've had where we've crossed from Mother Teresa to our grandparents and building a successful team culture. So it's a really good interview with Darius.